Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today we're talking systems, SOPs, automations, the tools that you need so you can scale your business and not burn out. So we brought in Brittany Dixon. She helps entrepreneurs build businesses without burnout. And she did such a great job of just sharing with us her process for onboarding and offboarding and all the tools she's using. So before we dive in, have you left a review of the show yet? If you've been listening and you have not left a review yet, please go do that. And then once you do, before you hit submit, take a screenshot of your review and then email it to clientcare@rachelngom.com. And then I have a little gift for you as a way to say thank you. And make sure you share this show with a friend, and let's dive in. Hey, Brittany, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat. So tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually live right outside of Columbus, Ohio, super small town of London, not the cool one where you get like the accent and all that good stuff. But I'm a mom of twins. I have twin girls that are 9 at the time of this recording, dog mom, full-time business owner. So I am really on a mission to help business owners build a business without burnout and really be more productive and get more done in less time. So I do a lot with the back end stuff. So all of the SOPs, task management, workflows, all of that stuff. Basically all the stuff that no one started a business to do. You started a business because you're good at things and you knew you could start making money off of it. But then there's all this other stuff you have to do as a business owner. So I help streamline all of that.
Yeah. Things you don't realize that you need until you're like, oh crap.
Yep.
I need all this stuff too. Cool. So tell us about SOPs and how we can get started with that. And what is an SOP to start with?
Yes, I know all the lingo, right? So SOP actually just stands for standard operating procedure. And really, it's just the checklist of how you do something. As business owners, everything is in our head. And that makes it really, really hard to start delegating and to bring on assistants to help with things because it's in our head. So it's really a way for us to document the step-by-step of how to do something and how we like things being done so that we can pass it off and start to delegate and grow the team.
Cool. So let's say we want to get started creating some SOPs. What are some of the first ones we should do? And then what's like the recipe for an excellent SOP?
Yeah, for sure. So I break everything into 3 buckets: business development, client services, and operations. We actually use that. It's our BCO method. So I think people always like to start with the client side because obviously clients are kind of that lifeblood of the business. So really making sure that side of the business is cleaned up and really organized. So I would say client onboarding is a huge one. And one of the biggest things I think people need to realize is that each offer you have technically has a different onboarding process. You're collecting a lot of different information. Now there's a lot of stuff that like overlaps, but there's basically a different process for each offer you have. So I would say client onboarding, client offboarding, client fulfillment, anything that you can kind of standardize within fulfillment. Those are kind of the first places people go is the client side. Cool. Second place people go is more of the marketing side. So how to write blog posts and post them, how to record and edit podcast episodes and post them. So a lot of the kind of growth activities. And then we get to the operations side and people are like, oh, I don't want to do anything with numbers or processes or HR.
Yeah.
So that's kind of always the last place that people go is that operations side. But I don't know that there's really any particular like order that makes it the best. But yeah, those are probably some of the top ones that I see when people start them. As far as what kind of makes up a good SOP, really it's just the detail, right? Like, how do you do this thing? And they make some really amazing tools nowadays to make this so much easier. We have Loom that can record your screen as you talk. We have Tango that will actually like create an SOP for you. But really it's what is the thing that they're doing and what are the steps that you're doing to get to the outcome?
As you're talking, I'm like, you're talking about the different tools and stuff. I'm like, ooh, I wonder if we can use ChatGPT to create an SOP No,
Oh.
it's at capacity right now. Shut up. Because I
Oh
was literally
no.
going to tell ChatGPT to create an SOP for client onboarding for me to see like what it would say. And then I'm like, oh, we
Oh
could just
yeah.
use that as like a standard
Yep.
thing and then kind of duplicate it.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me what is in your SOP for client onboarding. What are some of the key ingredients you make sure every client experiences?
Yeah. So when you're looking at this, you've got to think of it from both sides. You got to think of it from like the front facing client side, but you also have to think about the back end. So a lot of things I include are like when somebody signs on with me, I make sure to create a Google Drive folder to capture all of their assets. I'm making sure to send that onboarding questionnaire. I have an onboarding welcome email once they've kind of signed off on everything. That kind of gives them those next steps. I've got sending them a thank you gift. I actually do VIP days. So I have lunch that I send over to them. So I have a task in there to collect their lunch order, to place a lunch order. So it's just all of those things. And when you have them in a checklist like that, you can make sure stuff's not getting forgotten and you can actually up level your client experience. When it's all in your head and you're kind of jumbled everywhere, you're like, wait, did I do that? Did I not do that? I don't remember.
I couldn't even imagine trying to keep all that stuff in my head with everything that's already in my head. Like
No,
everything would be forgotten. I'd be like, sorry.
Yeah, for sure. And we all have so much going on, right? Like personal lives and kids and business. And like, if we can just document stuff and get it out of our head, like we just don't even have to think about it. We just check off the boxes.
Yes. Thank you. I'm like, if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening. Even like with our interview,
1000%.
when I hear, like, I see the alert on Google that I have the interview, I'm like, I better go open up the Zoom room earlier.
Right.
Otherwise I'm going to forget about it and I'm going to get distracted and like go do something else.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
my gosh.
I'm the same way. If it is not in Asana or on my Google Calendar, it is probably not happening.
Yeah. Okay. So you're using Asana then to
Yep.
maximum. Okay, cool. We use Asana too.
It's my fave. And what I will say about this is like the hot topic. Everyone's like, which tools should I use? Like, tell me all the things. And my whole philosophy is that it's not the tool that does the magic. They all are competing. So Asana and Monday and ClickUp and they all do the same thing, right? Like some have more bells and whistles and extras, but it is really the system and workflow that you're putting into the tool. And then the consistency of using it and not switching from tool to tool, that is the magic. So what I tell people is, yes, do your research up front, make sure it's going to work for you, pick it, and then stick with it and don't switch because your friend told you to go somewhere else.
Did you read my mind?
I see it all the time.
I saw someone else was using Monday. So I was like telling Ariana, our OBM, I was like, should we switch to Monday from Asana? And I feel like she had a mini heart attack.
Don't do it. Yeah, I'm not a Monday fan. I have tried all of them. Obviously, this is a line of work that I do. I see the alert to ClickUp. I still can't get there with my brain, but I've done Monday and like, nope, not happening.
Good to know. Because Asana was working pretty well for us. It was so funny when I suggested that. I could just see the look in her eyes of like, don't do this to me. No, don't do it. Okay. So we start creating SOPs for client onboarding. What's in your client offboarding? What are you doing there?
Yeah. So this is the part where I feel like we all have really good intentions. And then like, we're like, oh, on to the next one because we need the money and we need the new client. Right. So a lot of this kind of gets forgotten, but really sending that kind of like wrap up offboarding email to tie everything up and say like, hey, here's your deliverables. Here's what you need to do next. Here's the kind of like next steps for what our relationship could look like, really kind of wrapping everything up. And then providing that link of some kind for them to provide you a review. And then, of course, checking back in and asking if they've been able to provide that review. If you're sending any kind of thank you gift or something like that, putting that in there. And really just like putting a check-in task on like a recurring basis to check back in with them. So I think that a lot of this is like stuff we want to do. And then we get really caught up in bringing on a new client and it's like the new fancy thing. And then those people kind of get left behind, but it's so much easier to convert a previous client to become a client again than to like go find new clients. So really just putting some tasks in place to make sure that you're taking care of people.
Who do you have on your team that you're kind of assigning those tasks to?
Yeah. So I have an admin assistant that does a lot of them because I've created such a streamlined process. A lot of times I can do it within like 5 minutes. And it's a very fast process. So,
Mhm.
obviously we've got some automated systems in place too. We use 17 hats as far as like proposals, contracts, payments, that sort of thing.
Oh, that's
Um,
what I've never heard of before. 17
oh,
hats. Okay.
yes. So it
I'm
is
taking notes.
it's like Dubsado, Honeybook,
Got it.
and all of those. In my
Yeah.
opinion, it's better, but
Okay.
it's
We
just
use
me.
Dubsado right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Dubsado is just really not user friendly. I feel like it's really hard to set up and navigate, where I feel like 17 hats is just like very easy. So,
Cool.
and everyone's got their preferences, right? But
Totally.
again, all those tools do the same thing. You just got
I
to pick
know
one and
I'm
stick
not
with
in there.
it.
So like it's our team that's in there. So I
Yeah.
probably won't even bring it up to them. If they're happy with it, then it's fine with me.
That makes tons of sense. But yeah, so really just kind of making sure that that process is streamlined and I can just pass it off to somebody, or if it's a quick enough thing, I can be like, boom, 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 it's done. I'm doing the work, whatever that looks like. So
Cool.
yeah.
Can you share some tips for Asana and how you're using that to streamline everything?
Yeah. So I will say the biggest thing with Asana is it's literally a blank slate.
Yeah.
Honestly, all of them, right? So I feel like that's the hardest part for people to overcome when they go in and it's like completely empty.
Yeah.
I like to create the least amount of projects possible and then really use tasks and subtasks heavily,
Mhm.
because I feel like if you create many projects, it gets very chaotic very quickly. Honestly, when I do VIP days, most of the time I'm doing a massive cleanup and they're like, oh, well, I created like 7 different content boards, but we're not using any of them. So really simplifying it. I call myself a business minimalist for a reason. Like less is more. I think we
Mm.
have 9 projects that we keep. And then if we have something bigger, it gets its own project and then we archive it. But we have 9 core projects to run the podcast, the membership, the group coaching, the one-on-one. Like we can manage a lot within a little bit. So just trying not to create a new project for everything is a huge tip. And then again, we use our BCO method. So you're going to have boards for business development as far as like marketing or PR and visibility. We color code those one way. And then we have client services that are color coded another way. And then we have operations that is like the back end, like admin stuff that's colored in a different way. So just really trying to create the least amount of projects, I think, is the best thing.
Yeah. Do you recommend hiring somebody to do all this?
I do. Yeah, that's what I do. So I tell people I need to be the person you bring in before you bring a VA on, because
Yeah.
I think there's this very gray line between VAs and project managers, and then like more of like the system strategist, like what I am, because
Mhm.
we all somewhat do the same thing.
Right.
But I come in from a really high level and make sure that the processes are streamlined and that the like systems are really streamlined, because a lot of times what I found is that you need the VA less than you think you do,
Right.
because once you get organized systems, it's easier to manage. So yeah, I mean, if you're not an organized minded person, it's easier to just let somebody else come in and do that for sure.
100%. Well, I think
Yeah.
a lot of times what I see entrepreneurs is expecting the VA to come in and just read their mind on what they
Yeah.
want done, but they don't have anything documented or
Yep.
like showing specifically what it is. But then they're not happy when it's not like how they had it in their mind to be.
Yes,
Like, you
1000%.
didn't read my mind. What?
Yeah, I've come into that situation before. They're like, I have hired 6 VAs and this is not working. And I'm like, common denominator, you. So I feel like we need to get some
Yes.
systems in place before we have all these expectations for someone.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a big one.
for
A
sure.
big
For
one.
sure.
Cool. So what are some things that, you see entrepreneurs that are struggling with their workload and getting a healthy work-life balance? What are some
Oh,
things you would do
yes.
for them?
Yeah. So it's funny, even the biggest clients I work with to do like SOPs and automations and workflows and all of this stuff, it honestly all comes down to time management. And the reason they're not growing is because they're not managing their time well. We have created this kind of days by design method because I've seen too many entrepreneurs, and I myself was there, burning out because it's like business, business, business. And then they never have time for self-care and they never have time for family. And what we've tried to help entrepreneurs do is put the lifestyle pieces in first.
Mm-hmm.
So put in the self-care first, put in the family time, put in your lunch break, because we all know as entrepreneurs half the time we're like, oh, I forgot to eat today.
Yeah.
Putting in that lunch break, putting in those reoccurring things in your life that you want, your morning routine, all of that. Because what happens is if you don't put that in your calendar, then you're just going to fill it and you're going to put business things in. And by the time you get to the end of the day, you're like, I had no time to eat. I had no time for self-care. And then the other thing is a lot of entrepreneurs don't put in time for admin time, and they don't put in time for sales time, and they don't put time in for client work. So you fill your calendar with all these meetings and you don't put those things on, but guess what still has to get done, even though you're at the end of the day. And that's where I see a lot of people working 17 hours a day. So going in, putting lifestyle things on your calendar on repeat. Like I take Fridays off. Typically every Friday. Right?
Fun Friday. I'm getting a 90-minute massage tomorrow. I'm like, yes.
But putting that in there and blocking that time off, putting in lunch breaks, like go in and physically block it out on your calendar, because you're going to see very quickly how little white space you actually have to take calls, to take meetings, to take new clients. So really managing and controlling the chaos of your calendar is going to help you do more in business for sure.
Yeah. I actually spent some time the end of last year looking at all of this year and taking off consistently the last week of almost every single month to make sure I had like extra white space and extra breathing room. Because I know, like, gosh, our calendar just seems to fill up so quickly, like months in advance now. So I'm like, no, it's from like the entire year. I'm going to plan this out and I'm going to make sure I have this off. Like,
I did the same thing. Back in 2021, I kept telling myself, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take Friday off. It's great. And then somebody would tell me they need to book a call. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And it would literally happen. And I was like, no, if I don't block it out and I'm not at least intentional and see that there's a block, then if I want to override it, I can, but like nobody can get in there unless I'm putting them there. Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah. So then all of 2022, I took off almost all the Fridays.
Yes.
It was great.
It's so nice just to have that time. Like after you've been working hard all week, it's like, no, this is for me and not like for kids driving to baseball and like all these other things. It's like, no, I get this time.
And so here's the thing, we all love what we do, right? So sometimes I still work on Fridays, but it's this like flexible work of like, okay, cool. I can do a wrap up. I'm not being bothered with all these calls or incoming messages. Like it just gives you this flexibility of like not being tied down to stuff.
Yeah, definitely. What are some things that you automate in your business?
Yeah. So,
and what do you use to automate? Because I know we use Zapier right now and Zapier's breaking for a lot of things. So I'm like,
no.
I know. I'm like, we rely on it so much. And then I'm like, oh crap.
So I use Zapier as well. Honestly, it probably is the best one out there. But again, the automation, here's my biggest thing on automation is that you can't automate broken processes. Well, okay, let me take that back. You can automate broken processes, but you should not because it causes way more headache. So typically if something like that's starting to break, there might be something else in the process that kind of needs cleaned up before it's automated. Honestly, when we moved over to 17 hats from a lot of different tools, we were able to delete a lot of automation. So I'm a huge believer in like as much all-in-one software as you can get. So for us, our marketing software is Kartra. So that's all of our sales pages and email marketing. That's all in one place. I see a lot of people duct taping that together with like different platforms and it gets really messy really fast. And then for the one-on-one client side, it's 17 hats. For the task management side, it's Asana, which is also team communication. So as many all-in-one platforms as you can kind of get. And there is no all-in-one, by the way. So it's not there. It doesn't exist.
That'd be so nice if someone, I know like all these different companies are trying to create it, but then it's like they just miss the mark somewhere. And it's like,
and the thing with that is you don't want everything all in one basket anyway, because then if it breaks, it all goes down. But the least amount of software that you can have is the best, because then you don't have to have a ton of these automations created. So to answer your question, some of the automations we have, a lot of them are within 17 hats. So as soon as somebody signs contract, proposal, and payment, it automatically sends them the questionnaire. It automatically adds them to a workflow. So a lot lot of it's done in there. We do have some automations in Asana. So when a task gets dropped into specific areas within Asana, you can tag it specifically. You can assign it to different people. If somebody fills out a form in Asana, there's some automation that happens. So most of ours are within the platforms, and then we have just a few within Zapier.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember which one, because I'm not in this part of our business. Like Ariana handles it, but I'm pretty sure what's breaking now is like we get all of our leads that come in through ClickFunnels as like right now they're registering for a challenge and then they get uploaded into Close.
Okay.
Do you have a better system? Because like we have our sales team working in Close and that's where they're able to connect with people and take notes and all of that stuff. So do you have a better system than that?
I feel like until ClickFunnels gets the CRM piece put in, I feel like that's probably your best solution. I don't know if, it might just be some kind of little breakdown between like the data fields that you might want to just check into, but until ClickFunnels gets their CRM piece, I would say that's probably your best solution. Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, right? Like Kartra for me is even a CRM, but it's more the online side. I can't put notes in, I can't put follow-up tasks, I can't send proposals. So that's why we had to bring in 17 hats, because we do have this consulting side too. So it's tough. There is not an all-in-one that does it all. Trust me, I've searched.
No. And I feel like there's always something that's breaking at some point. It's just like this business.
Yeah. I think that's just business owner life, right?
It's gonna break and then you figure it out. And then you're like, oh,
everything's figure outable. We'll just break it and figure it out later. It's fine.
Yes. I love it. What does it mean to you to make an impact?
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing with this is really just to be able to help others with business. But I think it's just the trickle effect that comes into your personal life, right? Like we all started these businesses for freedom, and I see way too many entrepreneurs working insane hours and more than if they were at a 9 to 5.
Right.
And I know they all have passion, but again, you didn't start a business to run a business. You started a business because you're good at the thing. And then you get to do that like 20% of the time. And the other 80% is all this other crap. So really just to help people live a more balanced life and love what they do. And I think that for me, I do that just through what I do with businesses, because then they can help more people and it kind of creates that ripple effect.
Yeah. What's one of the best books you've read?
Yeah, best book. I will have to say Ordinary Superpowers by Mark Hinson. He's actually a local author here. That was probably the thing that shifted my mindset. I grew up really poor. So, kind of being able to see that I'm able to use this superpower of mine to make a lot of money was huge. And honestly, I had a mindset issue around even being able to turn what I was really good at into a business. I actually organized houses when I started, and I was an event planner prior to that. So really just kind of transitioning into organizing businesses, I was like, oh, I am really good at this. This is my superpower, and I can make a lot of money on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where can we connect with you?
Yeah. So our main hub is just bcohq.co. I'm on Instagram the most at brittanyandco.consulting, and all the things are there.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Brittany, for being on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.